disposal, which is Ronald Shields, our landfill foreman. Building and grounds. The building and grounds maintains over 20 county-owned buildings, providing electrical, plumbing, HVAC, painting, carpentry, janitorial services, among other items. Those include the new pet center, the courthouse, the Chatham library, and of course the Moses building. In addition to providing those services, they provide custodial services at our county health department, the sheriff's department, the county administration building, community development building, and the 911 building, which those are the same as the voter registration office. In addition to your regular building and grounds duties, they also maintain our 11 E911 tower sites, and they service the generators that are associated with those sites. They construct and repair and maintain it as part of the E911 system. Of course, we had to have road signs, so they construct, repair, and maintain 4,000 street signs throughout the county, and you'd be surprised at how often those get hit. Maybe not as much as it is in my fire, but they get hit pretty consistently. They assist our Parks and Rec department with our trails and park maintenance. And one thing that a lot of folks may not realize is they deliver and collect the voting machines to 30 precincts throughout the county, and that can vary from 1 to 3 times per year. SysAid was originally purchased as a work order management system for our IT department, but being the resourceful county that we are, we needed a system for our building and grounds and for also our Parks and Rec work order management. So we took that software, added a few users, added some different user groups, and we use that to track our work orders for building and grounds. Between January 1 and November the 1st of this year, building and ground staff were assigned over 370 service requests. These requests varied from water leaks to non-working lights to office chair adjustments. They maintain all the plumbing fixtures in the jail, which don't get treated as nicely as we treat our plumbing fixtures at home. Our staff all this work is done by a staff of 6. We have Eddie, Jonathan, Tom, Brenda, and Daryl, and Estella. I'm sorry, that's Robbie. Solid waste collections. We have 21 convenience centers throughout the county. Geographically, we have 10 green box sites located throughout the county. The distance from our northernmost to our southernmost site is almost 50 miles. And all of our sites are worked by 6 drivers. We hope to have a 7th hired soon as a kind of a fill-in type of driver. And it was estimated recently that our drivers put over 50,000 miles per year individually on one of those roll-off trucks. Solid waste collections, as we discussed recently, we're in the planning stages of 3 new convenience and collection centers. There is the Meadow Ridge site, which is our mega site. There is the Level Run Road site, and there is our Climax Ridge site. Those are about to be finished on the planning side. So, on the disposal end, our county residents currently generate about 46,000 tons per year of trash. I think that's creeping up to close to 50, I believe now. Our recent contract with Base Hauling is delivering about 15,000 tons per year, and I think that may be closer to 20 now. And our new contract with First Piedmont will be bringing in over 40,000 tons beginning January the 1st of 2021. Even with this new tonnage and potential for 50K more in 2022, our landfill life is conservatively estimated to be about 75 years, and that is attributed to our compaction efforts and make sure we get every bit of trash we can in that, as we call it, airspace. On the water and sewer side, we operate 12 separate water systems throughout the county. Mount Herman, 29 North, 58 West, Ringgold, Mount Cross, High Squeeze, Dry Fork, Old Richmond Road, Grid Road, and then we have 4 well systems throughout the county. 8 of these systems are served through bulk water purchase agreements with the city of Danville, the Henry County PSA, the town of Chatham, and the town of and those other 4 systems I mentioned are certified wells. We also provide sewer service in certain areas of Mount Herman, 29 North, Reno, 58 West, High Squeeze, and Chatham through treatment agreements with Dam and Chatham. We serve 2,600 water customers only, and we have 1,000 water and sewer customers that get the combined service. To serve these 3,500 customers, we maintain the following physical assets. We have 113 miles of water mains, 73 miles of sewer mains. We have 4 water booster pump stations, 15 wastewater pump stations. We have 600 fire hydrants, and we have 350 manholes. And that is the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Questions? Yes, sir.
Chris, you said we had approximately 75 years of life left on the landfill. Now, is that for the entire landfill or for one specific cell?
That's for, I think that's for the entire landfill.
Okay. What you gonna do when you fill it up?
We need to start planning for that.
I did ask the question sometime back about building up and how high could you go, and the gentleman with Bella said as high as you wanted to. So.
Yeah, at some point you peak out, you know, with your slopes, at whatever grade they have to be, you peak out, so you can only go that high. But some of the areas the existing areas that we've already capped, he's talking to us about possibly going back in and adding on top of those. And that's something that I don't think includes the 75-year estimation that we might be able to go back. And once, as soon as you come in the landfill, there's a couple of pads there that we might be able to fill up on top of those. And that's something we'll continue to look at and push that out. And then, you know, with the compaction efforts and all that may even get better, and we can extend that life even longer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This thing, I've done a little bit of reading on solid waste, unfortunately, but there are some other countries that are already incinerating it.
Oh, yeah.
And omitting, you know, gas that's being controlled and not harmful. So, you know, I'm not sure even 75 years from now we'll be doing anything as far as burying.
You probably have the same reading material that I have, because, you know, if we were real bold, we could propose to build a incinerator plant now for about $300 million. And talking about making a whole lot of money, we could make a whole lot of money. Of course, you have to have a little pond to put the ash in.
Yeah.
Think about it, Chris.
Well, I hope that that cost comes down as we move forward. That's definitely the way.
Well, as Mr. Warner would say, staff would work on that.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got a tax.
One other thing, I do want to emphasize in your department, departments, I guess I should say, because you got 3 tentacles out there in the public works. One of the things that I think is so important is customer service in all arenas, but in particular in your arena. Some of the most positive feedback that I get is actually from about one of your attendants at a collection site at the Mount Herman site, James. I get tons of feedback from people talking about, you know, him going just a little bit extra. In particular, some of the senior ladies and stuff is about how helpful he is about getting the trash out of the truck and the car for them. And, you know, the site's always clean. You know, I frequent the site, but I just want to say that, you know, please let those folks know on the front line that their efforts doesn't go unnoticed and that they appreciate it. And, you know, please keep driving home in all your departments. Customer service, doing things timely and responding to requests in a timely manner. And, you know, I think the best thing the county can do countywide is let's do what we say we're going to do.
And other folks have recognized James too. We will make sure he's aware of that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like Mr. Smitherman is up next. Avery Solutions IT assessment presentation.
Yes, sir. I was just asking Nick if he wanted to take the ball and run with it, but I see that he's left it squarely in my park.
He's delegate.
Yes, he is. He's Lieutenant Colonel. What do you say? As part of, I guess it was March or whenever, when COVID hit us hard, we realized how little we were able to do with our citizens electronically. That there was so much business that had to be transacted inside of Chatham to work with county government. We also realized that there are many things that we would like to do to move the county forward in citizen service through technology that we really don't have keen awareness of. And we needed to solidify not only our understanding of where we are, but where we needed to go and how we were going to get there. So we used the opportunity of the Coronavirus Relief Fund to hire Vera Advisors to help us review our technology system and to give us some guidance of the steps we need to take to be more technologically savvy for our business interactions in county government. So with us today is AV. I will let him pronounce his name. AV is the president of Avera Advisors, and they are here today to present the findings of their information technology strategic plan. AV, please.
Thank you, Mr. Stillman. Thank you, board, for giving us the opportunity to work for the county and to come and present our findings. And I'm assuming. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to go over a pretty intensive project that we had starting in August of this year to look at what the county has in terms of IT assets, your vision, the board's vision, the leadership's vision, and to see what needs to happen for us to become a connected county, a digitally advanced county, to solve problems like not having to come to Chatham to do business with the county. So we'll go over those things. I'm going to show you some current findings, the strategic vision, the roadmap, and our timeline. And at the very end, I'm going to tell you a story of a very similar county that we've been working with over the last 5 years or so in Tennessee that we've successfully taken through this process. We all know where we are. Pittsylvania County is a historic, large county in southern Virginia. And I don't need to tell you about your hometown, but the purpose of government traditionally has been limited to facilitation of services, law and order, collective expenditures, and to oversee public infrastructure. And going beyond that has, some governments, or many governments, that are far behind in technology by design across the country. And in my background, I've done work with 30 or 40 cities and county governments across the country over the last 15 years. What we are seeing is the stakeholders now demand the same level of engagement that they do with their banks, their telephone providers, their cable companies, as they do with the county. They don't want to drive an hour back and forth to do business. They want to do things on their mobile apps. They want to do things on their website. And that is the expectations from elected officials and management. So given that scenario and that lens, we looked at the Pittsylvania County's IT infrastructure. And, we came up with some broad findings that are well detailed in our report that will be presented to you. But overall, things that for a variety of reasons, we've done business a certain way. Lack of funding, trying to find efficiencies like the public works director said, using one system to do something else in another department. We've been very resourceful in using what we have currently to our best benefit. But still, we have things like a lot of hard copy paper. We have siloed departments. And I wasn't here 5 years ago. Things may have been very different. But what we saw in 2020 is still some silos, disconnected workflows, You have systems that are capable in some cases, that are very expensive compared to what the industry is doing, but we're not using it in the most effective manner. And as Mr. Smitherman says, we have a Ferrari, we're driving at 45 miles per hour, right? There are some systems that are antiquated, they are ineffective enterprise systems. We are in 2020, and we should be doing business at the same pace as the private industry is. But we now have the benefit of learning from their failure. So that aspect works well for public entities like this across the country. So what do we have today? This isn't your network diagram, but this is what your IT organization looks like. It looks neat, organized. It's got servers and desktops and internet connections and iPads. But we're still doing business like this. Sticky notes and filing cabinets and Excel sheets on Excel sheets that are linked to each other. And we need to change that, because that is not what an enterprise system looks like or works like in 2020. We want to go from standing in line in Chatham to doing business from your bed or bathroom or wherever you want to, right? Pay that bill online, get that permit, apply for it. From an employee perspective, things like getting a permit cut takes weeks, if not months, because you have to lug paper around. You have to go to a site and do paper inspections, bring it back to the office, put it into the computer. We need to go to an iPad on site. We need to go to checklists. We need to go to instant results for the homeowners or businesses. And for our employees, we need to have requirements-driven, GIS-centric enterprise systems. Everything is spatial, right? Everything is map-oriented now. I came here this morning from Tennessee, and I would have been lost without my iPhone. It's all there. I don't have to think about it. That's the mode of business we need to get into, where all of the assets that the director mentioned here today should be available to our citizens as far as practical, and to our management on a map, so we don't have to lug around bunches of paper. So how do we get there? It seems like a tall order. And I'll tell you that we are poised. In Pittsylvania County, we are ready to take the next step because the foundation is there. What we consider the three elements or pillars of a sound technology strategy. And you've all heard this term, this year especially, cybersecurity. Everyone's gone home. People are working from their homes, from vacation rentals, and they're calling into or connecting into your network. So we want to make sure that cybersecurity is top-notch. Infrastructure goes hand in hand. How are you backing your systems up? What kind of connections do you have between buildings? Is there redundancy? And then enterprise systems. What kind of tools are we making available to our staff so that they can do work more productively using our taxpayer dollars to the most effective, in the most effective manner? So we looked at these, considering these three pillars, looked at your internal stakeholders, employees, external stakeholders, businesses, and prospective and current residents. And please feel free to ask questions if this is getting too boring. I'm going to try and keep it entertaining. So what is the vision? The vision is to have a connected county that has modern, connected, intuitive systems that allow our employees, citizens, and businesses to do business better, to be faster, to be more productive, to be your management and your direction, your executive staff to have the bandwidth to sit back and think about where you want to take the county and the operations next. So we broke this strategy down to 4 critical elements. One is security, cybersecurity first. You can't think about anything else without going there first. Then we have a bunch of recommendations that are falling under the digital county experience. How do you get people to engage more online with tools that are available to the general public? Infrastructure resiliency is next, and then we're going to talk about data-driven decisions. You all hear this term, big data, data-driven decisions. We have the capability and we can get there. This is a bit of an eye chart, and I apologize, but we'll go through each one of these recommendations through this presentation. So as you can see, we've broken this down. There are 25 critical recommendations, and some of these the county is already working on. So as we were doing our thought process, the county was working on these things. We will talk about that. Implementation timeline, we want this done within the next 3 years. It's doable. It, again, seems daunting. We've done it before with another agency or other agencies for that matter. And the way this is broken down is we're not just giving you a one-liner saying, hey, go buy more computers. We have put a lot of thought in working with your team here. We have dissected this and put it into really bite-sized chunks as much as possible, and it's broken down into immediate recommendations, short-term ones, long-term ones, right? And the report that will be distributed to you actually details all of the costs associated, who's responsible, how long is it going to take, and the impact of doing that or not doing a certain thing. So security first. Cybersecurity, again, gets thrown around a lot. It goes well beyond not just using the same password for everything, or not writing down sticky notes that stay on your desk. We have to have a cybersecurity plan that is comprehensive, that keeps us ahead of the game, because who we're up against is, I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but there's armies of robots literally trying to break into our systems every day. And there are tools and enhancements and processes we can put in place to keep us protected from these malicious actors. There's cybersecurity awareness tools where, most cyber attacks happen because an employee unknowingly, unwittingly clicks on an email or a link that they're not supposed to. And we need to make sure that our staff is aware of what to do when they're uncertain about a certain email. The thing to do is don't do anything, call IT, right? But we need to make sure that they're educated on this. Antivirus tools, not that they don't exist at the county, but I like to call cybersecurity a layer cake, right? You have one layer, you still have a cake. But is it better if you have 7 layers of chocolate cake? So we're talking about layering security elements one on top of the other. And the security information and event management program or system is part of that. So we're still in the immediate year 1 recommendations. We're recommending the county do this right away. The digital county experience. The one thing, among the many things that the county has going for you, is that the county is on a platform called Civic Plus for their website, which is an industry-leading, I've seen it in a bunch of counties, we've implemented it in a bunch of counties. And that system gives you the ability to quickly go mobile, because they have the add-on tools, and in many cases, they may be included in your contract. So we're recommending that you implement the mobile application, and it's a pretty quick turnaround. And then an online payment gateway that allows your citizens to make online payments on your website for a variety of purposes, which isn't uniform today. Infrastructure resiliency. We need to have a robust staff. What you have today is excellent for where we've been and where we have come today. And we'll talk a little bit in detail about that towards the end of the presentation. But infrastructure to be resilient needs to be backed up, redundant, documented, and acted upon and updated as things change. And things change quickly. Microsoft releases patches, every once in a while, and we need to stay on top of how quickly we can patch our computers so that security can be maintained. IT services management. How is IT delivering services to the customer? What happens when you forget your password? You pick up the phone and call IT. Is there a better process of doing that? So that it's documented, so you can have some automation. You don't need to call IT. IT asset management. How do you keep up with how often you need to replace your computers, servers, desktops, things like that? And then software deployment. Do you really need to shut down or do things while people are still working to deploy software. We're recommending certain tool sets and certain processes to modernize all these processes. Policies and procedures need to be documented, and not just documented, but those that apply to the general population, the staff population need to be publicized and accepted, right? What to do, what not to do with a county-approved laptop or an iPad, things like that. Mobile device management. Most county employees have laptops that have been issued. How do you better manage what happens with those? What happens if one gets lost? What happens if one gets destroyed? Is there a process to erase it, trace it, get it back, what have you? We've made recommendations on standardized infrastructure, cloud-based email service, secure email, and evaluating your fiber optic network footprint. And that we're moving into the short-term recommendations. That particular one talks about leveraging fiber optic technology to connect your buildings and make the county a little more connected as far as possible. This is a widely spread county, and the different locations that we have need to talk back to the central data center. So we're recommending that a fiber optic network footprint be evaluated to make sure that we are optimizing that technology. The last group of recommendations is data-driven decisions. We all saw the sticky notes slide. I love that slide. I've been using it for years. When you have things on sticky notes and printed paper, you don't have the ability to crunch data. And when you don't have that ability, you can't make data-driven decisions. And it's not all sticky notes, right? You have the basic framework of systems. You have Keynote, which is your enterprise financial system, that has a lot of data. We're not doing anything with that data. We probably have 30 years worth of data in there. How can we do some predictive analytics, right? We use SysAid for work order management, or we're trying to use it. Is there data in there that can give us trends on what to look for in the next year? There's tools out there that really make this easy or at least present the data points to management so that they can make some data-driven and intelligent decisions going forward. We're not getting too far ahead of ourselves just yet, but artificial intelligence-based systems actually will tell you what's going to happen in certain cases if it's fed the right amount of data. So we need to make sure that we have the right data collection, the right tools, and the right analytics so that we can make better decisions as a management team. We're recommending that to deal with the extra sort of paper flow that's around us, that county redeploy a system we already own called Laserfish. It is a industry-leading system that we need to just make sure that the workflows are set up right, that we have the right licensing, and that we deploy it across the organization so that things like your historical records, your permits and licenses can be scanned in. And scanning in is the easy part. The electronic document management systems like Laserfish are robust enough that they allow you to go back and look for things that you've scanned in, right? Otherwise it gets lost. We're recommending that the county deploy Office 365. We have a flavor of it in the county. We're recommending that we go all in on that system. Enterprise Citizen Relationship Management. This one is applicable to the county administrator's office, to the pet center. It does things like track economic development data, right? We're working with a certain developer. What are the touch points? This is a tool that's used in marketing a lot. It's essentially allowing the county to track interactions with citizens, with developers, with clients, and every flavor. Enterprise S3 ArcGIS. This is the GIS system being used in the county. We have one license. We're recommending that it be expanded to include an enterprise use. What that means is any department that needs to use GIS data can do so in their own departments without having to call a central GIS person to make the request. Of course, that expertise will need to be developed, but an enterprise system will help you have a wider use of GIS data. Mobile data terminals, if I'm not wrong, they have been purchased and deployed with the sheriff's office. This essentially is a huge step because it gives sheriff's deputies the ability to look at your computer-aided dispatch information that's coming from 911 or wherever and give them real-time information. Prior to that, they had to make radio calls or come back to Chatham to get their data in. Huge step forward. We're recommending that the county replace Keystone, which is your current enterprise financial management system. The details of this recommendation are in our report, but the gist of it is that this system is not designed or isn't modern enough to allow for the digital county experience, right? There are better systems out there, not naming any, but that allow you to do business without having to rely on Excel sheets or sticky notes and make things a little more seamless. We're also recommending that we conduct what we call a system audit of your CAD system and your utility management system, Beacon. We're not quite certain yet if that is the best fit for county operations. And the last one, number 25 on data-driven decisions, is essentially a recommendation that says, take what you have, assess requirements based on business processes and business needs, and your vision for how services need to be delivered to county citizens, and continue implementing and using requirements-based enterprise systems, not systems that meet a certain need of today, but also look at this from an enterprise strategic aspect and make sure that your systems being used are requirements-based. And requirements keep changing as technology changes. We all know that. So when you implement these systems or make these changes, what does IT need to look like? And in our experience, there is, magazines and organizations like Gartner throw out ratios. You need 3 IT people to 100 people. You need 4 to 200. We don't necessarily subscribe to those ratios because they don't take into account the uniqueness of each organization, especially counties like Pittsylvania, right? Gartner doesn't know what we're dealing with. So our approach really is to look at the kinds of recommendations we've made and to look at in the future, when you finish doing all of this, what is it going to take for you to manage, right? It can either be internal resources or external resources. The commoditization of IT tools has meant that a lot of these skill sets are available as a service, right? You can buy, you don't have to hire a full-time system administrator, although you may need one. You don't have to hire a full-time web designer. And I commend you for implementing Civic Plus because that takes away your need to have a web developer designer. So when these recommendations are implemented in the future, in 2 years, your IT organization may need to look a little different. You need leadership that is visionary, always looking ahead in terms of trends and what's out there. How can we make processes better? The IT organization is not siloed anymore. The best practice is that we expect IT to work. We expect Wi-Fi to be there, just like we expect lights to turn on when we flip the switch on. So we need IT to think long-term. We need IT to think strategically. We need IT to think about business processes they're solving or problems they're solving going forward. And when you do put new systems in, you need system administrators, you need desktop technicians, help desk, and network administrator becomes critical. Because of how important cybersecurity is, everything relies on how secure your network is, how quickly you can recover, how well documented it is, and what kind of tools you have in place to stop bad actors from coming into your system. Any questions before I go to my next phase?
Questions?
Take a quick break.
Okay.
So, this all may seem very daunting. We put a 200-page report in front of you, right? But I want to tell you that Pittsylvania County is not in bad shape. As of today, though, you are poised to take the next step, which you need to become more digitally connected, to be more resilient, to be more cybersecure. But I will tell you the story of our home client, Blount County, Tennessee. They hired us back in 2016 to do, their RFP said, IT consulting help. And it was 2 lines, help us. It was probably 4 lines, but it didn't mean anything to us. So we put in a response and we say, here, we can come help you. And we got there. They had an IT department of 7 people. Their systems were squarely in, I'm going to be generous and say mid-1980s, right? Green screens, command keys, no virtualization, no server. They were using old desktops for servers. They had residential grade internet. They had spotty Wi-Fi. They have 7 county buildings not connected through the fiber. Extremely in a bad state. And the IT director of 25+ years had left without giving notice. There was no documentation. And this person was such a control freak that they had not trained their or any of their team to do anything, to do backups, nothing. He would do everything. So this is what we walked into, and Mayor Mitchell said, can you help us? And I said, the first thing we need to do is assess and make a plan, right? And we made a plan for Blount County that spanned 5 years. And we're currently in the last year of this plan. It went through everything from replacement of desktops to creating a plan for inventory control to a new help desk system, fiber optic connections, redundant internet, backups, a new financial system, you name it. We just gutted that place and brought in new systems and processes and new thinking. I'd like to point out that the core IT team at Blount County has still stayed there, except those that have retired. And our approach wasn't just cutting the team. There's institutional knowledge that needs to stay within the organization, right? But we were able to take them from 1985 to 2000. I'm not going to promise 2020 just yet, but they're in the 2000s now. And Ed Mitchell is a great client. He's a visionary. And with his help, we had to convince 21 county commissioners in eastern rural Tennessee to take on this IT modernization plan that has so far cost the county about $4.5 million. Pittsylvania County, by contrast, isn't that far behind. The next step with Blount County is now that they're where you are, we're going to take them in the next direction. So I just wanted to give you perspective on the fact that we have helped a similar county with a much larger modernization effort, and we've stayed with them throughout this 4 or 5 years. And if you call them right now, he'll say that, yep, we couldn't have done this without better. I'm not trying to sell you here. We're just trying to point out to the fact that this isn't unique Pittsylvania County, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to take the county forward. Stock pictures of fancy IT stuff, but at the end of this, I think we're going to be a more digitally connected county. I'd love to take questions.
Questions? I'm more of a statement. I know our court system here locally has gone more advanced and more digital and really reduced the requirement for file cabinets and all that retention of paper and all of that. So as I watched it, it made sense to me. I was glad to hear you say that we're way ahead of Blount County. So we need to pick up. I mean, all of us have talked about customer service and have the ability to do a lot of different things. So, you know, that's exciting to see, you know. You got my attention though when he said $4.5 million. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So what leadership team, what's the next step?
Well, it's a good question. You know, it's an elephant that we got to bite one step at a time. We do have some requests by, you know, maybe our number one frustration and shared by even some of our constitutional officers is our file management system, which is Laserfish. It's been around us for a long time, but as AV said, it needs a redeployment. That's probably the easiest thing to get going on from a holistic cultural standpoint. I think all the cybersecurity things are priority one, and they've been listed in this document, which I've read at least twice in different incarnations, but probably need to read it one more time to figure out where we start on that, where we place our investments on security and remote access, and making sure that all those systems are sound. So security is the highest priority. And then it's really leaning into there's a lot of cultural change baked into this report. Whether you see it or not, trust me, it's a paradigm shift in our organization, and we're going to have to figure out a way to move forward at a pace where we can all learn and keep up and figure out how to do this. But the good news is, you know, we do have a firm foundation, but if the board is interested, and I know the executive team is, we want to lean in the direction of digital services for our citizens. And we have to shore up our security and our other things first, but that's the way we want to lean. Is the paradigm going into this was do your business with the county without being in Chatham. And I think that should continue to be, you know, our overarching theme going forward. So we'll be dissecting this and figuring out how to move forward. And, you know, there's a lot of things in here that cost money. And we will be talking about them in just a few months when we kick off the budget process for FY22. So that's probably the first major thing that you guys will see is us coming forward with recommendations for investments next year.
Mr. Chair.
Have you reached out to the other constitutional officers? Are they going to be an active partner in this process? That's where I see we're going to have the biggest problem is trying to drag everyone into this process. And especially, I think it's going to be a huge benefit to do the online paying for the citizens. And to me, that is probably, I would think it should be a top priority where they can do a lot of this interaction online as opposed to coming to Chatham. So my question is, have you invited those leaders into the process so far, or?
Yes, I mean, their comments are in this document. There's no doubt about that. The Commonwealth's attorney is our number one priority in the short term to helping him spool up a file management structure. And if you've ever been in his office, it is overwhelming what they do in physical paper form. The other thing that's going to cross every single boundary of our organization is the GIS deployment. And you gave us authorization to move forward in that a couple months ago. Literally, I signed that contract today. And the reason I waited so long was, in some degree, this document, but also us understanding the implications inside our organization when we deploy this GIS system, because it will change all of our business, down to the beat cop, all the way to my desk. I mean, every single layer of this organization will change because of the deployment of the Esri product. And what you challenged us with, I think the authorization you gave me was, David, you can sign this contract if you can figure out how to make this work. And what we know is we're going to have to jigger, and I mentioned this maybe in some of your Friday updates, is we're going to have to rejigger our organization to put assets in different places to live into this as well as our Esri deployment. And we're going to start, I'm slightly getting off topic, but it's pertinent. the Esri deployment is going to happen in phases, and we are going to live into it in certain elements of our organization before we roll it to the next one. And we basically decided, and I may forget, but it was community development, public works, and public safety is where we're going to deploy the Esri products in full force first, and figure out how to live in that world before we deploy it to our sheriff's deputies, quite frankly. Because like AV said, there's very few things we do that's not geospatially correlated. And it's the easiest way to retrieve information. It's the easiest way to get the data and the analytical information out of what we do. And so GIS is going to be one of the very first ways you see our organization change. It was a massive investment, and it's going to be an even bigger deployment that requires some human resources that we don't presently have. My commitment to you, if I haven't already said it, is everything we're going to do, we're going to attempt to do it with no net change in FTEs. We may rejigger the levers a little and move people around, but our goal is not to grow our organization, but to lean into a new technology and let the technology help us grow. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's a daunting task to implement this, Mr. Warren.
Other questions?
Not a question, but a statement, just for everyone that's sick and tired of me here to say this, but the app, I've been a big advocate for pushing for a citizen interaction app, so I'm glad to see that on there.
Yeah, couple things I did see on there too was changing from Keystone, which has prohibited us from making some necessary changes in our numbers as far as what the perception is of our tax rates and stuff like that. And this past week, I've had 2 large agricultural citizens contact me that, because all of you all are aware of this, general public, maybe not so much, but the land use program, they might have 100 different pieces of property that somebody else owns, and they take all the paperwork in to the Commissioner of Revenue. Well, both of them had a situation where it's unusual times going in that they file all the paperwork and 2 or 3 of them get left out. Well, then those 2 or 3 landowners get full tax rate. So this, this would eliminate some of that. You would have a tracking on what you actually presented. And that now they don't, because they just presenting a whole bundle of papers. Once you hit the send button on the line, you got the tracking to say I sent it. So I see a lot of benefits to our citizens on being able to confirm when I sent it, who I sent it to, and the whole 9 yards. So I'm glad to see we're moving in a direction, and I was really glad to hear that we weren't as far behind as some others. So that's a good thing. I do have one other question, then I'm going to give it to Mr. Ingram. I know you presented Mr. Scarce and I and Mr. Smitham a hard copy that is not different than the presentation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have the ability, or is it available even for all of the board members to get not a hard copy, but a computer copy of the draft? I would like all of them to have the ability to read all of it, or parts.
So after today, it won't say draft, right?
When you tell me to take that.
Yeah, so we'll finalize it and everybody will get a copy ASAP.
Okay.
Yeah, could we get a hard copy?
Yeah, I'll let you have mine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
If I get the computer copy, somebody have my hard copy.
I'll read it online.
He's got many copies.
Yeah, I have other copies.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, we can provide a PDF copy.
Okay.
My question is this sounds good, and to spin off what Mr. Farmer said as far as the app and making all of this more accessible to the citizens and to save them from the trip to Chatham. And please don't confuse this with a tax statement, but Do other localities associate or attach a convenience fee with these transactions?
Some do, and it depends on what transaction.
What kind of percentage?
Of what kind of percentage
Yeah.
of fees?
On average, yeah.
I would say about 2.5. That is if they've signed up with the payments provider that will charge it. So they're passing it through it. They're not making money on this.
Would you recommend that?
I don't think I'm in a position to say that.
All right. Well, how do you say your name?
Abhijit Vedder.
That's what I thought.
This is the way.
Thank you, sir.
And just for your knowledge, we do, when Vincent collects taxes via the Key Web portal, we do have some transactions, basically the ones that are tax. You can pay by credit card, but you will be charged 3% on that transaction.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, staff and committee and constitutional officer report, we're down to 6A, tourism, DMO, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. Forgive me if I ramble through this because it's somewhat bureaucratic when you say it all out loud, but the Virginia Department of Tourism, or Virginia Tourism Commission, I should say, in every community is willing to work with the community in the Virginia Tourism Program if you sign up to be a designated marketing organization. And our designated marketing organization in Pittsylvania County has been the Chamber of Commerce. I don't know for how long, but certainly since I've been here. The Chamber of Commerce has relinquished all tourism interest and has also relinquished their DMO certification to the city of Danville. Danville is starting their own tourism initiative to be run out of their economic development department. And they will have a person in their office that is in charge of tourism. The city of Danville, therefore, will be the DMO for the city of Danville and will be eligible for grants and assistance from the Virginia Tourism Commission. The city of Danville has asked, since the chamber was the DMO for both us and them, they have asked if we would like for them to be the DMO for us. We do not have any tourism activities in our economic development department or anywhere else in county government. And as a matter of convenience and coordination on the surface, it makes perfectly good sense to me. My conversations with both Corey and Ken are that they want to market our wineries, our lake, our rivers, and our natural environment to augment their urban environment in the river district. So they are willing to become the DMO for the region. I didn't want to go any further in that conversation with them without this discussion and input from the Board of Supervisors as to your interest in allowing the City of Danville Economic Development Department to become the DMO for Pittsylvania County. And I'm open to that conversation now.
Okay, board.
Hey, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Chairman. I was wondering if this is something maybe we could take into closed session and discuss.
I mean, you could, if you so desire. Just have to amend the agenda.
Did you hear that, Mr.
I
Dudley?
did not, I'm sorry.
Mr. Hunt said if we so desired, we could amend the agenda and talk about it in closed session.
I think it would be a good idea.
Okay, you want to make that a formal motion to amend the agenda and move item 6A to the closed session? And
Yes, sir.
and we'll have the county attorney put the proper wording on it.
Yeah, we'll just add it to our legal discussion.
Do that after you approve.
Yeah. You got a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ingram, motion made by Mr. Dudley. Well, let's get the verbiage, how you want it?
Add it to the legal, which is 8A. We should call it discussion of DMO designation.
Got it.
Do roll call. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Ingram?
Yes.
Dr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes. Okay, we're at 6B, committee reports, recommendations. Mr. Smithman.
Yes, sir. This is to forward the recommendations from our two previous committee meetings. We had several in the Finance Committee to come forward this evening, and I think Vaden and I wanted to get your temperature on whether or not to list all those separately in our business meeting agenda, or would you like to vote on all those recommendations as a block in your business meeting this evening?
Primarily, all of them came from Finance Committee, didn't they?
Yes, I don't think we had any from Economic Development, as far as action goes. Do we have a list of what's
Yeah,
going
we
forward?
have,
They were all unanimous votes, I remember.
I've given it to Kalen. It's, because I pull up the finance here.
I have no problems voting in a block, Mr. Chairman.
So we
I
had,
guess my question would be, Dr. Miller and Mr. Farmer, is there any more you would want to inject in that you didn't during the Finance Committee of those items?
Well, I want to hear the block again, just
all
for,
right,
as a
all right,
refresher.
here's the block. Pay Tunstall their fire apparatus CIP funds. Release CIP training funds, I believe that was $14,000 for the trailer and something else. You agreed to, the recommendation was to approve the one-year Harris radio maintenance contract and ask staff, we better bring back a alternative or potentially lower number next year. Pay the sworn deputies, law enforcement deputies, the $500 bonus. You had solid, we took no action on the solid waste equipment purchase. You said bring that back to you when we had better financing information. And then the last one was to deny the health department refund request for the shingles vaccine.
There's one difference. There was a motion and recommendation to take the equipment purchase back to the full board in December.
Okay.
Pending a financing recommendation.
Not
from the
back to the
executive
Finance
branch.
Committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the block. So approval of CIP funds for Tunstall, approval for training funds for CIP, Harris radio contract approval, sworn deputy $500 bonuses, take back the solid waste equipment purchase to the full board of the December meeting once we have financing, and deny the health department refund request for the shingles vaccine. That's the block.
You good with a block?
I was sort of leaning towards separate, but, you know.
Is there one you want to break apart and just talk about that individually? The
I
shingles
think
thing?
I think we'd be good on all of them, so, yeah, we'll go block.
Okay, block, all right.
Everybody good with a block? Okay, we're good with a block. Jake?
One other item, sir, before we go into closed session, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I forgot about you. We got off to such a quick start, I forgot to introduce to you Brent Weinkauf. Brent is our new pet center director, and he started yesterday. Brent is a 8 or 9 year employee at Hargrave Military Academy, a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. No! And prior to that,
Oh, yeah.
we got a Semper Fi coming out. Yeah. And a former co-worker of Nick Morris. And we're really glad. I'm going to tell you what I told the pet center folks. We know how to run the pet center now. Our people know how to do the blocking and tackling, the feeding and the cleaning and adoptions and transfers and all that stuff. What we hired Brent for was leadership. And his leadership background as an entrepreneur in the Corps and at Hargrave are what sold us on him. And we're looking, his charge is to take us to the next step at the Pet Center, to make it more self-sustaining than it already is, to increase our partnerships, to increase our fundraising, and increase the positive community awareness of what we do down there. So I'm going to sit down, and Brent would like to say, I'll let him have it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice to meet all of you. I'm just super excited to come be a part of the Pittsylvania County team, help serve our community and start building positive relationships and building on the positive relationships we already have in the community, at the same time raising some more money for the pet center. And just looking forward to taking care of all our animals throughout the county in the safest and best manner, with integrity and respect to each animal, while respecting, giving dignity and respect to all of our fellow Pittsylvania County civilians. And I'm excited. Day 2, I'm still here. Got a lot to learn, but I'm ready for the challenge. I'm just excited.
How many animals are in the center getting our respect today?
Right now, we are sitting at 491, 393 cats. So we got a lot of work to do with cats. I got a great staff over there, hard workers. They know what they're doing. That's one of the most appealing things I have, other than obviously the cost. They know what they're doing, so they come in there and work hard every day. Been with them 2 days, so I know it's not a long time, but my 2 days are all very well equipped, and it's exciting to be part of the team.
Thank you. Welcome to the team. And apparently, the executive team has figured out a way to get a pipeline between Hargrave and filling
That's right.
positions in the county.
That's
So
right. It's underground.
we thank Hargrave.
Don't forget the Marine Corps connection.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That's right. That's right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
I better remove my mask. Let me get a look at you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very kindly, and vet to a vet, thank you for your service. And we got to drop you boys off on the beach and go back home. But I like the slogan, though, the Marines are looking for a few good cats. So that's what we're looking for. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Booyah.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else, Mr. Smith?
No, sir. We're ready for closed session.
Can you read us into closed session?
Sure. We have, with the additions, we really have 3 separate areas we're going to closed session. First one's 8A, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A8. We have 3 different subject matters. Potential Franklin County / School Branch EMS agreement update. That's the first one. Discussion of the DMO designation. That's the second one. And third one, we're going to discuss the AEP power transmission line relocation agreement. And then the second tranche is going to be economic development updates. That's discussion concerning prospective business or industry or the expansion of existing no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industries' interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A5. Subject matter, projects Impala and Matterhorn. Purpose, economic development updates on unannounced industry / existing industry expansion. And then the third closed section is personnel, and that's legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A1. That's county attorney and county administration, and the purpose is discussion of their annual performance evaluations. So those are our closed sessions for tonight.
Can I get a motion to enter closed session?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Dudley. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Mr. Dudley, can you give us your vote orally, please?
Yes, sir, yes.
And it won't let me do this,
Okay.
let's do roll call.
Do a roll call.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Ingram?
Yes.
Dr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, just hang tight.
We're about to certify, so just say yes.
Yes.
Not yet.
Mr. Hunt, can you,
We returned to open session at 6:59. I will now certify closed session. Be it resolved at the meeting of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors on November 17, 2020, the board hereby certifies by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identify the motion authorized in closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in closed meeting. If any board member believes there is a departure from the requirements of the Act, details of state prior to the vote indicate the substance of the departure, the statement shall be recorded in the board's minutes. Mr. Davis? Mr. Dudley on the phone?
Yes.
Mr. Farmer? Mr. Ingram? Dr. Miller? Mr. Scares? Yes. Chairman Warren? Yes. Meeting has been, closed session has been certified.
no other business to come before us tonight, the work session, I declare work session adjourned.